Welcome to the May 18th meeting of the Rotary Club of South Jacksonville. It's great seeing so many people with us here today, people we haven't seen in a long time, live, right? And you're happy to be here too, aren't you? Yeah, especially now. People Zooming, I know people who are Zooming who have been here and now they're not. Like Lisa Marie, will have something to say for us a little bit later, won't you? Right? Yeah. It's great to see everybody. And it's going to be even greater to have President-elect Richard come up and do our pledge and prayer. Long way from the back, isn't it?
I took a long way. I don't know why I did that. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please bow your heads and pray with me. Lord God, we ask for inspiration. Thoreau found it in a seed. Certain disciples found it in tongues of fire. A prophet found it by being taken up to heaven. But this is us. And you speak to us through the tenets of Rotary, through the four-way test, through the companionship of our friends here. We look to those places for inspiration from you. And thank you in advance because we know we'll find it. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Richard. One of the beauties of being a president-elect is that you never know when the current president may ask you to do something, like step in for someone who wasn't able to be here to do the pledge and the prayer. So thank you very much. Well done. Well done. Christy King, come on up. Family time.
I'm so happy to be back in person and to not see myself staring at myself on Zoom when I do the Family of Rotary update. So for wedding anniversaries, Lori Whitmer and her husband Nathan are celebrating 19 years of marriage today. And for member anniversaries, Eddie Farhat is celebrating 1 year with Rotary on May 19th. And President Tom Rainey is celebrating 13 years with Rotary on May 20th. And for birthdays, Ken Flotman has a birthday on May 20th. And last but not least, Patty has a birthday tomorrow.
Patty. Look how embarrassed she is. Just wait, there's more coming. Because we're all going to sing happy birthday to Patty. I'm ready.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Patty. Happy birthday to you.
Yay. Yeah.
She's not acknowledging that that's her 42nd.
Yeah. No, we were happy to do that, Patty. I hope you're totally embarrassed. Good. Good. John Combo, do you have a training moment for us?
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, we will see. Come on up.
So in the spirit of Zoom and everyone loving it, we put together a little video, a little training video on Zoom. We're going to hope it works here. Need some volume. Well, great. So the training video is that it doesn't work. Let's see.
That's okay. Past President Jason probably has a couple of jokes for us.
He's always ready.
Always ready.
Always ready.
I just can't tell them in a church.
Yeah, well, lightning strikes and all that, right?
Well, sorry, guys.
So we'll just pick this up another time.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Enjoy the videos. Thanks.
Thanks, John.
Par for the course.
Oh, gosh. Hey, Lisa Marie. Are you there?
I am President Tom. Can you not hear me?
So we can't hear her.
No, that's me.
Yeah,
It wasn't me.
not this time.
Nope.
Hey, good job with that training moment.
Thank you very much. We worked really hard on it.
Yeah, thanks. So Lisa Marie, why don't you give us a Treaty Oak Park update?
Absolutely. I'm very, very excited. First, I'm really excited to tell you that from after my update today, Lynn Bauman will be taking over everything related to Treaty Oak.
Hey,
Unfortunately, I will not be able to join in the wonderful activities this Saturday, but I'm very excited to share with you. We have a cleanup project scheduled from 10 to 2 at Treaty Oak Park, and we will be providing lunch. So compliments of Publix, there will be a complimentary, not complimentary, we'll all be paying for it, but we're asking every member who joins us to, Patty will charge your account $10 that will cover lunch and the snacks that we're purchasing to be served at the park. So Publix is going to deliver that. We're asking folks that while there are picnic tables and things like that set up, we are asking folks to bring chairs so that we can have some fellowship and socializing afterwards. I hear there's a rumor of maybe a cornhole contest going to be taking place. So if you haven't practiced, I would shake off the bags a little bit and throw them around and see if you can compete. And I think I heard a rumor about President Tom doing something special for the winners of the cornhole tournament. Was that a rumor or is that true?
hey, I can rise to any occasion. Depends on
So
who
anyway,
wins.
10 to 2, we have the park, 10 to 12 will be cleanup. And then from about 12 to 2 will be our lunch and fellowship. So bring chairs or blankets, something that you can sit on afterwards. The city's providing our supplies to do the cleanup. It'll be primarily trash pickup and looking forward to having a really great time.
Great. Anybody have any questions for Lisa Marie?
What day is it?
Saturday, this Saturday. You
This
can
Saturday.
RSVP through DACDB or just tell Patty and as you're leaving the meeting and she'll make sure that we get you marked.
Another reminder to read your gear. Right. Thanks, Lisa Marie. That was great.
Ask in case you can
My
play
pleasure.
cornhole.
Pardon me?
Ask in case you can play cornhole.
Hey, so Carlos wants to know if you can play cornhole, Lisa Marie.
I can.
She can say yes. She's all in. Unfortunately, she won't be there. I know.
But I'll
Right.
take a rain check if that's a challenge. I'll take a rain check.
Yeah, and I'll step up again and reward the winner. Absolutely. Thanks again.
My pleasure.
Julia. Yeah, I know. Surprise. A little bit of a CIS update for us, maybe?
Sure. We are in the middle of our drive for communities and schools. And
Can you go to the front? So
oh, great.
Yay, come on over.
Hi, everyone. We are in the middle of our drive for communities and schools. We are collecting items for the back to school in August. So the list is in the gear. Please read your gear. And the instructions on how to order on Amazon are there as well. If you would rather bring items into in person, that's fine too. We're going to have an event on the 16th of June, and we're going to put everything together for the kids and get it ready to go at the CIS campus. And we're going to do something afterwards. TBD, but open to suggestions. Thank you.
Anybody have any questions about that?
Yes, we do.
Yes,
Don't run away yet, Julia.
I'm here.
So quick question. Thank you again for putting the link into the gear. It makes it really easy to go out to Amazon and to buy the supplies because that wish list is already set up. My question is, once y'all, is somebody monitoring that so that when you get to the limit that you want of each item, it'll show that it's not available anymore? Because like when I purchased my items, it basically said you may be purchasing duplicate items. I went ahead and purchased them anyway, but I just was wanting to know that for clarity.
I don't have that answer exactly. I think that we'll take any, any amounts of those items and put them together, and we are getting some monetary donations as well. So we're going to supplement any items that maybe we're missing in addition to what we're getting in person. So I will clarify that with the CIS folks. They are monitoring who the items that they're receiving, from the names, and making sure they're putting that together with our club kind of in our little pile that we're going to be assembling together. So let me clarify that, and I will provide that feedback next week.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you so much, making it very easy to donate.
Thank you.
Thanks, Julia. Lisa Maria's expecting a wedding registry, so if you hit 6 wine glasses, that'll be the end of it. I think that you can give as much as you're happy to give, and we're happy to move forward with that. Mary Alice, would you like to introduce our visitors and guests today?
Thank you, President Tom. I know that in person, we have at least one visiting Rotarian. Madison, you want to introduce yourself?
Shelley, I'm Chief Development Officer Daniel. Julie and I work together. I'm glad to be here.
Are there any visiting Rotarians on Zoom?
Right here we have Dale Moe. He's past president of Rotary of North Jax, and actually our current Rotary Club, Rotary of Northwest. They haven't yet been chartered, but we're getting there. He's going to be the president for that club there too.
Oh, congratulations. Excellent. Now, I know we have a number of visitors. Julia, you've got a page full of visitors.
Yes, I am so happy to have several folks here. Madison already introduced himself, my boss. And we have Tim Corrigan. Brian is the communications director with the Duval County Clerk of Courts. And Honorable Judge Tim Corrigan, which we will introduce more fully in a few, but we're happy to have everybody. And, yeah.
Thank you. Mike Dara, you've got a guest.
I'd like to introduce Michelle Kennedy. She's been here before. She's the general manager of that great little theater across the street. And she's been involved in all sorts of other nonprofits here in Jacksonville. So, Michelle Kennedy.
And President Tom, you've got a guest.
I do. I have Kirby Wedekine. Stand up, Kirby. You may recall seeing him as he has spoken to our club in the past. Kirby's with Homeland Security, so everybody keep an eye on what you're doing. Right? What's the real title of your organization?
So I'm the security advisor with the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. It is a mouthful, I know, but we provide retail services to government organizations and private industry to help folks protect themselves. It's all taxpayer funded, so everything we do is free. These things are meant to help people prevent things from happening like we saw last week with Colonial Pipeline ransomware incident. So without pitching, hawking my wares too much, that's what I do, and that's who I am. Thank you, Tom.
Great. We're happy to see you again.
John with his phone.
All right. Great.
Do we have any Zoom guests?
I do not see any.
She said she doesn't see it.
We're taking that as a no. Please go ahead, Robert.
Okay, no problem. Rick, if you could stand up. I have Rick Mulaney, who's the director of the Public Policy Institute at Jacksonville University, a commentator and off speaker. with ourselves, and a very good friend. He also performs wedding ceremonies. He did for my daughter. Most importantly, I know it's totally inappropriate to comment on a judge's rulings, particularly when the judge is in the room, Judge Corrigan, or anything that relates to decisions. But I have to tell you, he very wisely hired Taylor Mulaney as one of his law clerks. And if you could go just a little bit further in order that she remain in Jacksonville after her 2 years runs, that would be wonderful.
All right, are we missing anyone? Nice.
We here in Rotary welcome you today. So glad you came along, glad you came our way. A hand of fellowship is yours, sunshine or in rain. We here in Rotary say welcome, come again.
Thanks, Mary Alice. Thanks for leaving my script. Even better. Julia, come on back up. You can introduce our speaker today, please.
Well, I don't think our speaker needs a lot of introduction, but I am going to just read a short excerpt. Judge Tim Corrigan is the Chief Judge of the Middle District of Florida, an honors graduate of the University of Notre Dame and Duke University School of Law. He clerked for the Honorable Judge Joe Platt of the U.S. Court of Appeals for the 11th Circuit, and then spent 14 years in private practice. He joined the federal bench as a magistrate judge in 1996, was appointed as a district judge in 2002, and became the court's chief judge on November 2nd, 2020. Judge Corrigan has published a number of legal writings and has also taught law school classes and an adjunct instructor focusing on civil procedure, trial practice, federal sentencing, and professionalism issues. Judge Corrigan serves on the board of directors for Daniel, which provides services to 3,500 at-risk children every day. I have had the honor of knowing Judge Corrigan and his family for a number of years. His humble spirit and commitment to improving the lives of children is unmatched. Last but certainly not least, Judge Corrigan is a devoted grandfather and shares his birthday with his grandson, Patrick.
Past President Robert, come on up.
There was a little crossover where we both asked to introduce Judge Corrigan, and I was just going to add a couple of small things. As y'all know, we have 4 branches of government. One is the press that's sort of privately, not constitutionally provided for, but still one of the branches. The other 3 branches, keep in mind, every single one of them, the executive, the legislative, and judicial branches are all elected. And if they're not elected, they're appointed. And in every instance, if there's things that go on that cause them to be looked at again, then they're subject to election and they're subject to appointment. In the federal system, the federal judges are all appointed after an incredible vetting process. And that vetting process allows them and ultimately to be confirmed by the Senate, appointed by the President, and confirmed by the Senate, the United States Senate, for a lifetime appointment. And there's a very serious reason for that. And that is to allow the judges in the federal courts to make decisions without regard to political pressure, without regard to social pressure, and the like. As part of that vetting, they obviously require incredible academics. They require incredible background checks. They require all kinds of good work experience, but most of all, they require a judicial temperament. If you talk to any of the lawyers in the room that practice anywhere, they will tell you the most important and the nicest thing about Judge Corrigan is the way he treats people. And that extends to when you follow him to a restaurant. It extends to how he hopefully treats his children. It extends to everything that goes on. So when you look at your calendar and you know you're going to federal court, you know not necessarily that you're going to get what you want, whether it's bond or a plaintiff's case or a defendant's case or the like, but you know you're going to get someone who is going to treat you graciously, treat your client graciously, and sometimes rule the right way. Having said that, if you'll all give a warm welcome to Judge Corrigan.
Well, thank you, Bob, and also Julia. I don't know if it's a Rotary tradition or not. I'm not used to getting 2 introductions, but and while I'm thinking about it with respect to the request that Taylor be required to remain in Jacksonville when she continues her career, it is so ordered. I want to thank you all for your kind invitation here today. I think we're all feeling some of the same feelings. This is the first time I have been in public in well over a year. And it feels pretty good. And, you know, I feel I'm vaccinated, and I feel like it's maybe we're starting to emerge from this, and it's a good feeling. And I can't think of a better place to start coming out to make speeches again and to be with people than this Rotary Club. I didn't know there were going to be so many lawyers and judges here, and it's good to see a lot of old friends. And so, as a federal judge, I handle hundreds of civil and criminal cases every year, and this includes a number of bank robbery cases, because that's usually a federal crime. And before I became a federal judge, I had this image of bank robbery as a high-risk, high-reward crime perpetrated by daring and sophisticated criminals, kind of like Bonnie and Clyde, that type of thing. It turns out that bank robbery is usually a crime of convenience, yielding no more than a couple of $1,000s, and the perpetrator is usually no rocket scientist. And I want to give you a couple of examples. I had a defendant who, upon leaving the bank with the robbery money, he had the dye pack, you know, they put the dye pack in the money so it explodes all over you and you got blue all over you. That's designed to, obviously, to draw attention to. So this particular robber, he runs out, the dye pack explodes, now it's all over his clothes. And so he decided that the way that, that he would allay any suspicions would be to remove all his clothes and continue running down the street, hoping, I guess, that the sight of a naked man with dye stains on his face with a sack full of money would not arouse any attention. I had another, these are all true, I'm not making this stuff up. We had another robber who took a cab to the robbery, robbed the bank, got back in the cab, and was quickly apprehended by the police using the GPS tracking system on the taxi. And my personal favorite, the robber who entered the bank, handed the usual note to the teller demanding money. The teller complied, and after the robber left, the teller turned over the note and found a bank deposit ticket with the robber's name and account number on it. And the gentleman couldn't figure out why the FBI was at his house before he was. Since I have so many lawyers, I want to tell you one more recently. I keep a set of files that I call my funny files. These are actually pleadings that are filed in court. They're not meant to be humorous usually, but often they are. And all of you are probably familiar with giving an affidavit or a sworn statement, and very often you're required to do so under penalty of perjury. You've all familiar with that phrase. And some of you may have seen this, made the internet rounds, but in a case up in Atlanta, and this was a lawyer who filed the affidavit, instead of filing the affidavit swearing he was telling the truth under penalty of perjury, he swore that he was telling the truth under plenty of perjury. And, you know, I've always wanted to write a memoir of my experience on the bench. I'm thinking the title, Plenty of Perjury, is a nice title. So, funny stories aside, I often say that sentencing is the hardest part of my job by far. In my almost 19 years as a federal district judge, I've sentenced probably close to 3,000 individuals. And too many of these individuals are young people in their late teens or early 20s who've committed a serious crime and who are facing long sentences. When I look at their backgrounds, I often find that these young adults either had no family, came from a dysfunctional family, or had untreated mental health issues. So that observation over a number of years, seeing this and wondering whether there was a way to intercept these at-risk young people and give them the tools they needed to become productive members of society rather than just another crime statistic. So certainly my job is to sentence them when it's appropriate and give the sentence that's appropriate under the law. But I started to wonder, is there something that I as an individual could do to try to make a difference and improve these outcomes for some of these young adults. And so I found Daniel, the oldest child service agency in the state of Florida. Of course, I say I found it. Daniel's campus actually abuts my neighborhood. So I have, for 38 years, Daniel's been right next door. So it didn't take me it wasn't too hard to find it. But I joined the Daniel board about 8 years ago, and to see the dedication of the Daniel staff and the positive outcomes for Daniel kids has been a very rewarding experience. Daniel provides therapeutic, educational, and adoption services to an average of 3,500 Florida children and their families every single day. And you know, some of you may have heard of Daniel, some of you may have a vague idea of what Daniel is, some of you may be more familiar, but I want to suggest to you that it's the agency, it's been around since 1884, it's an agency that does incredibly important work in this community, and a lot of people just haven't heard about it or don't know about it. And what it does is it assists children in numerous ways, but those services include counseling for abused and emotionally troubled children, connecting children with foster or adoptive families, offering homeless teenagers shelter and support, and strengthening and reunifying high-risk families. These are kids and families that literally have nowhere else to turn and nowhere else to go if Daniel wasn't there. Daniel also runs an acclaimed statewide inpatient residential treatment program known as SIP that serves children ages 5 through 17 who have serious mental health and behavioral issues. The vast majority of the children in SIP have witnessed or experienced trauma. Typically, these children have been abused or neglected, or they've witnessed domestic violence, or they live in unstable environments with family members who are struggling with their own problems of substance abuse and other issues. Some of the kids that Daniel sees in SIP display self-harming behaviors. They have long histories of running away. Others act out violently with peers or their families. And some simply lack the ability to effectively communicate with adults and peers. So SIP addresses those problems with an inpatient residential program that lasts for 3 to 6 months, and during which these children receive intensive therapy and live in a structured and stable environment. And the outcomes aren't always positive, but a lot of them are. And if SIP hadn't been there, if Daniel hadn't been there, these would be the same people that I would be sentencing in the next 5 or 10 years, no question about it. And if I can just share one success story with you, there's a number of them, but I'll leave it at one here. There's a Daniel program called Project Prepare. It's a program for homeless youth program. It's a homeless youth program which works with ages 16 to 17-year-olds who have no place to live. They're homeless. They don't have a family. They don't have a place to live. And there was a fellow in this program, a young man named Jerome, and he had a traumatic childhood. After his father died, he was removed from his mother's care due to substance abuse issues, placed in multiple foster care homes for several years until he was adopted. He continued to struggle with trauma symptoms, resulting behaviors that caused tensions in his adoptive family, and they ultimately expelled him from the home. He was then placed in a shelter in Tallahassee. He's now 17 years old. He did not want to return to foster care, so he entered Daniel's Project Prepare program. he moved into the independent living village apartments, where he was given an apartment, basic needs. His case manager helped him to obtain an ID, birth certificate, social security card, and connected him with needed resources. This is all a Daniel program. Jerome then enrolled in a job training program and obtained his GED from Florida Junior College, and he now plans to join the military. So that's a success story. And there are hundreds of those kind of success stories every single year as a result of the work that Daniel does. And it is tough, tough work. So thank you for listening to this brief statement of the Daniel story. If you want to get more involved or more information, Julia Kalinsky, your member, can give it to you, because she is one of the stellar folks who work over in Daniel, along with Madison Shelley. And I just am grateful for the opportunity to have worked on the board for these number of years and to witness the great achievements that Daniel provides every single day. And those conclude my prepared remarks. I am very happy to take any questions either on Daniel or anything else you want to ask me. So thank you very much.
What are the principal funding sources?
So a good chunk of it is government funded, because as you likely know, in the last 20 years or so, governments have tended to give over to private entities some of the most difficult jobs they have. And so there is government funding that funds some of this, or a lot of these programs. However, the reimbursement rates are criminally low. And so it is very, very difficult to make ends meet on the money that comes from the government. So Daniel also relies on grants, on private funding, on donors, and so forth. So it's, and like every other organization that is trying to help children, there's never enough money to do the job that needs doing. But that's how it is. Yes.
Follow-up question would be, what about capital needs? What capital needs do they have now?
Oh, sure. The question is, what are the capital needs of Daniel? And I'm not going to be an expert on that. Madison and Julia would. But so Daniel has a campus and that has buildings where inpatient kids stay, has a school there, has other campus structures, and like every other campus, I mean, it's been around a long time, and the buildings wear out, and you gotta, and none of the capital funding comes from government sources. They just fund a specific program, and so capital funding is always a huge challenge. We're in the middle of some of that now. We've had some very generous donors, but there's always room for that. Now, as a federal judge, I am not allowed to ask anybody for money. So I want to be clear. I am not asking anybody for money. If you talk to Julia and Madison, they may not have any problem at all asking you for money. What else? Yes.
In your role and how you can engage with nonprofits, in particular this one. Can you speak a little bit more to that, just in terms of, I'm sure there's lots of folks in this room and on Zoom that are board members, and the role that you just said you can't do always ends up being the most important. But what are other ways in which you are serving the organizations that you're serving with?
It's a good question, because I always tell people, I've been on a number of boards, and I always tell people, you know, I can't raise money, because and as you're right, that's very often what board members spend a good bit of their time doing. So the things that I can do, that I've tried to do with Daniel, is things like this. I've never done I don't know what I called it, but I did a video, I guess, on behalf of Daniel. And I do speaking engagements. I also am part of what is called the operations committee. So I'm actually a committee that oversees the actual operations of the programming and of the buildings and so forth. So I can do that. You know, I just, and there's other functions of a board that I can play. I just can't raise any money. But I would say operations has been my biggest contribution, plus trying to, whenever I'm asked to try to speak publicly or to put in a good word, I do. So I don't know if that's good enough, but so far they keep asking me back. So yeah.
I'm just wondering what's the status of in-person proceedings in federal court with trials and hearings?
Sure. The question is, have we resumed in-person proceedings in federal court? At the beginning of the pandemic, we shut everything down like everybody else. There was a time in the fall where the numbers went down. We started to open up a little bit. We had to shut it back down. But now, as of February 1st, March 1st, February 1st, we started in-person proceedings like sentencings and things like that. Everybody has to wear masks. And this, I mean, I'm feeling a little naked, I guess, without my mask on. But everybody has to wear masks. We have all these protocols. But we did resume in-person sentencings and other court proceedings in February. We resumed jury trials in March. We've had a number of jury trials under protocols. And I'll be honest, we haven't had any problems. The jurors have been responsive. We do let people who have a COVID reason not to come. We don't ask them to come, but the people that have shown up have been ready to serve, and we got protocols, as I'm sure you all do in all your, we got so many protocols. And so we haven't had any complaints, and we haven't had any problems that we know of. And so we're actually heading into phase 3 of we have a 4-phase plan. And we're hoping to get to phase 4, maybe by the fall or something. That's our hope, and that's pretty much back to normal.
Have you had any in-person hearings?
Yes, I have had in-person hearings. More on the criminal side, which is required. I've had a few in the civil side. I will tell you, of course, I think all of us in business and in law and everywhere else, we're all looking at Zoom, and is that going to be permanent, or what's the mix going to be of Zoom versus in person and that type of thing. I personally will tell you that I still prefer you to be there. I prefer people to be there. I prefer to be there. But I think the reality of it is that there is going to be more, if I got a lawyer from California and one from Texas, depending on how important the hearing is, maybe it makes sense for me to have that by Zoom. We used to do it by telephone anyway. So, economy, what's good for the clients. I mean, I think those are all going to be discussions we're going to be having, but I do not foresee the courts saying we're never going to have anybody in a courtroom again. I think most judges will want to be back in courtroom when they can be, and I'm happy to be back in, I'll tell you that. Yes.
I'm interested, is there anything since you've become chief judge that, I guess not surprise is the right word, but something that you kind of didn't expect, but it's become a big part of the role that you talk about?
Well, I think we're talking about it. I mean, whoever thought that I'd have to be a public health official, right? I mean, whoever thought? And it's difficult. You got to make, we're struggling right now. What's our role in asking our employees whether they've been vaccinated or not? We'd like to know, but is that a fair question? Is it going to make, I mean, I feel like every week, every day, there's something that comes up that we've had to deal with on the COVID front. And so I don't know about y'all, but I'll be happy when that's not top of agenda. I'll be happy when we're talking about the other things we used to talk about as top of agenda. But so if you're asking me, because I became chief judge in November of 2020, so we were right in the middle of COVID and we're still dealing with it. So I would say that's been my biggest challenge and surprise. Yeah. Sure.
Is there a backlog that's developed because of all the changes you've had to go through, and then more changes and more changes? As the backlog, I don't know what the normal backlog is. Believe it or not, I am not a lawyer.
Yeah. Well, do you play one on TV or anything?
Yeah. I didn't play one on TV either.
Right. So there is a backlog, but we're meeting it. And my son Brian here is with me here today. He works for the state court system. Their backlog is is bigger than ours because they deal in a higher volume of cases. And so their backlog is worse than ours. But yes, there's a backlog. We have jury trials that we haven't gotten to. We have matters we haven't gotten to. And I think that's going to continue to show up, but we're addressing it, but it'll take a while for the system to smooth out over time, but it's a good question. Yes, sir.
What's the average, like, the defendant, how long have they been sitting in the county jail versus in the past before COVID?
It's a very good question. Unfortunately, too long, because there two things have happened. One is that, and the question was, how long are defendants having to stay in the local jails longer because of COVID? And the answer, unfortunately, has been yes, for two reasons. One is we weren't able to conduct a lot of proceedings we needed to conduct, and so we would get motions to continue. The lawyers weren't even able to go meet with their clients, so there's been a lot of difficulty in that. We're coming out of it, but so that has slowed us down. We're starting to catch up now. We're starting to, because we don't want people just sitting there too long, but it's been a reality. But the other half of it is, even once we sentence somebody, let's say they pled guilty or they were convicted and they've been sentenced, well, now they're designated to go from the local jail to the Bureau of Prisons, which is a federal system. Well, the Bureau of Prisons wasn't taking new prisoners during the COVID crisis. And so even though they were ready to go to a prison, they were still having to stay in. And so it's not been a great situation because prisons are not really designed for public health emergencies. Everybody's close together and so forth. It's not, we've done, I think people have tried to do the best they can, but it has not been a perfect situation by far.
And one more question.
Sure.
I know, before you joined Daniel, like, was there like one particular person that like kind of like as a judge like moved you to like, man, but I know you got to do your job or whatever, you had to sentence them, but was there like just one that just like made you say, you know what, I want to join an organization like Daniel to try to stop, you know what I mean, these kids from becoming that?
Sure, and the question was there one person or one situation? And I think if I think about that honestly, I think the answer to that is no. Okay. I think it was accumulation. I keep seeing the same. You see somebody and they've done something pretty bad, or they're facing some serious time, and you look at their background and you see it. And so I think it was an accumulation over time rather than one like epiphany moment, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. I don't know where we are on time, so anybody?
We're so good.
Anybody else?
Up to the front anyway.
All right. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Tim. So thank you. We would like to make a donation in your honor to the Rotary Foundation for Polio Plus.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's been an honor. Thank you.
Just a couple of reminders and updates for everyone. For those of you who may not have known, Tyree Boyer's daughter Kelly passed away last week. The service was last week. Just they would appreciate your thoughts and prayers, cards, etc. if you weren't aware. Also, I want to remind you again to RSVP for every Rotary event that you would like to attend, like the Treaty Oak cleanup on Saturday. So, right, don't forget to do that. And also, I did want to say that for the 2021 and 22 Rotary year, President-elect Richard's year, we've submitted a $6,000 district grant to support furniture and physical therapy for a Daniel Kids Cottage. And so once approved, we'll share more about the project and what each of you can do to participate. So I want to make you aware of that. Julia, you are aware of that. Right. Next week, our speaker will be Mayor Lenny Curry. And on June 8th, our speaker will be Jay Stowe, the CEO of JEA. So mark your calendars. And as we end our meeting, please join me in the Rotary motto. Service above self, one profits most, who serves best. See you next time.